against Lille. But the one thing that everyone was talking about, and it's been the hot topic recently, Harvey Elliott, what's the future? Where do people see him? All these types of things. Now, in this game against Lille, he comes on after 45 minutes and he has a huge impact. That's what the eye test see. It seems to knit everything together. Is that true on the stats?
I have to be honest with you. If you compare who he came on for, right? Harvey, he came on for Curtis, right? I've got that right, haven't I? I've not just lost the plot. Harvey has less on ball time than Curtis, right? So that's less of our possession than Curtis in the same amount of minutes. What does he do along here? We've got creates more XG, fair, does score, creates better post shot. That's because the shot he took was deflected and ended up going in the top corner, which the keeper's going to get nowhere near. And that's not discredit. I'm just trying to explain why that stat is that high, considering he only took one shot. He did create more XT than Jones, which, that's a positive. We look at attempted passes, about the same, 21 versus 24. He's got an 87% pass rate. CJ's 87. So, again, not a lot in it. Jones gets an assist. Jones gets a key pass. Harvey doesn't. Long balls, which isn't Harvey's game. So he's got 4. Final third passes. Harvey. This is where Harvey excels. 9 final third passes out of his 21 attempted versus CJ's 2 out of his 24 attempted. So he's got a higher percentage of his, when he's in that little pocket, his ball's into the danger, the old classic danger zone, but into the box. He's got 9 of those, which is an outstanding stat. How many of those progressive? Well, for Harvey, none of those are going to be progressive because he's already closer to the goal than 20 yards. Is what I measure a progressive pass to be. So it's going to be very hard for Harvey to get those. And then plenty of box touches. How many passes does he actually make when he's in the box? Which again is a really good indicator. He's got 2. So that's more than CJ. So there are some elements where you could go, okay, I can see that. And he's received 9 progressive passes, again, because he's higher up the pitch, right? Whereas CJ's lower. But he's receiving successes, it's 3% below CJ. So I think the only thing I would say is it doesn't necessarily create more threat. So yes, he's done those things. And that could be because of the player he's been feeding into or because of the players around him, those kind of things. It could be a manner of mechanisms. But playing it into the area at that higher volume of percentage of passes is a good thing and is a very good sign for him. And that is exactly what Elliott's good at. Off the ball, it's going to be harsh on him because he's just not. He himself says physicality is not his game. He's got 0% for any of the duels. Whereas CJ's actually got, CJ's not done great, 25%. But it shows you where it is. I think probably if I can work out why that view is there, I would suggest from looking at data where CJ took his touches versus where Harvey took his touches. So CJ took 69% of his touches in the middle third, whereas Harvey took 46 and 43. So 43 of them were in the final third, right? So what you're probably seeing, and this isn't wrong, is that Harvey did a very similar job to CJ, just near a goal and made more balls into the box. So therefore, he had a greater impact, but he might not have ticked through on the stats because of the players around him and those and other impacts. But in terms of just being higher up the ball, higher up the pitch, would have helped us, would have occupied, would have freed up other players because they've got to worry about this little kid on the edge of the box ticking the ball around. Whereas previously, CJ's back playing out the sort of the Ginny role, basically, the 6, getting it, not losing it, and playing it. So, I could say from a positional sense that Harvey had an impact on a game, even if the stats don't really show a great difference between the 2 players, if that answers your question.
Yeah, it is interesting. To be fair, you've said it before. We talk about the areas of the pitch, the way we divide them up, the way we talk about that zone 14 so often. That's where Harvey comes alive, isn't it? Realistically, that's the difference between him and CJ. You sacrifice that physicality element to get Harvey in those areas where he can tick it, slide a ball down the channel and make stuff happen. That's what it comes down to, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that Harvey has to come on. We're talking about game state. I don't think Harvey can start a hustle-bustle game. I still don't believe that. I think there's games, there's a state of a game that he has to come on for. The way Elliott set up, they're a player down, which also means it's easier for Harvey to find pockets of space to operate because he's unlikely to be man-marked. Whereas they're going to mark everybody else up. So I think, and equally, he comes on, when he comes in that second half, that last period of the game, the tank energy levels of the Oppo are a little bit lower. So again, his physicality, which he talks about, it doesn't come up as a problem as much. So I think there's elements there, and I think Harvey can have an impact. And I think looking back and reflecting, that's probably a mistake or a decision I think Slot might change. Is things like United, Forest, Elliott might have been put really optimal to bring on those last dying seconds. Rather than trying to keep hitting them with gas, pace, and movement, which is what we did with the subs. A little bit more insecurities in those areas might have enabled us to get a better chance, which happened at Brentford. So, I think there's an element of truth in there. We might see that now going on. Do I think Harvey's ever going to start for Liverpool on the slot in a meaningful game? No. And you can probably get me to eat my hat if that happens, but I just don't see it. I just think the physicality that Slot demands of his midfield three in the majority of starting in Premier League games, Harvey, by his own admission, hasn't got it.
Yeah. And to be fair, as people will say, because we always like to balance it when we look at the stats, maybe that's not what he's there for Slot for. You used the word a few times that stuck with me, impact and game state. It's when the opposition start to tire. When you need something, Harvey is probably the one that's starting to earn the trust of Slot. And if we talk about ultimate stats, as you always do, Bart, a pre-assist, an assist, and now a goal in the last two. Will just move the needle a little bit on that, won't it, you'd think?
Yeah, definitely.